Do you have enough room?
Don't mind me, Bo. Okay, we're back. All right, welcome back to the clubhouse. I want to say thanks to everybody on our first video last week. The responses were good, and Clay and I are working on some further thoughts and ideas to dive in a little bit deeper. But for the time being, we have a special guest with us today, my lovely wife, Kendra.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Kendra. I am 33 years old, and I am married to the lovely Ben. And we have our dog, Bo.
Who's taking up the majority of the couch.
Yes, he is. And we also have a son who's going to be 2 in February. Ben and I have been together for quite some time.
That's right.
Just along for the ride, always.
Ride or die.
Yep.
10 plus years.
Definitely. At least.
Of pure bliss.
Pure bliss.
So when we first got the business going, I guess to start, we really wanted to just sit down and talk about maybe the dynamic of having your own business and what that looks like for a husband and wife situation for any of those out there who are thinking of stepping into the same kind of position, what that looks like, some pros and some cons of what it's like working with your spouse. Now, Kendra has always kind of had her own job as well. She's an independent girl. She likes to work hard, and she has her own career path. But
well, I don't know about that. We can say it lightly, but I do like to go to work. I don't know if you'd call it a career path, but
well, call it whatever you want.
Okay.
So a quick funny story, and maybe it's not funny to you guys, but Kendra was reaching a point at her job for quite a while that I think it was starting to, how would you describe that?
I worked full time, so I feel like it was just kind of taking a mental load on me. I also worked with a group of women, which is great, but it also has its challenges like any other job can have, and I felt like Ben was a little overwhelmed with work, so I kind of brought up the idea of maybe leaving my job and coming in and helping Ben with some things with his business.
It seemed to come about organically, but I thought the funny part, it's ironic, I'm not going to say funny, was that I think you were excited about your potential freedom of not having a full-time job, and then about 1 month later, we found out that you were pregnant.
Yeah, I think it was literally, I think, the week after I told my job that like I was going to be leaving. So that was pretty interesting.
And here you are.
And here I am.
I'll start by saying Kendra is one of the most organized people that I've ever been around.
Thanks, Ben.
And also, we've gotten a lot of compliments on customer service, which is primarily Kendra emailing or calling or talking with different customers. So they always have really nice things to say. Probably handle it a little more gently than I would.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
And probably more promptly. So I'll give you credit for that.
Thank you.
But it's your working relationship in a way is a reflection of your relationship in general. Would you agree?
In some ways, I think it's important to definitely separate the two.
Right.
But it definitely reflects on your communication.
Right. As we get to that, what would you say are some of like the most important things when working with your spouse in this type of setting that you have to really keep in the forefront of your mind?
I think you just have to like stay in your lane. I have a way of organizing and you have your way of organizing. So what I do works for me and what you do works for you. I would say you're a little bit like organized chaos.
That's a nice way to say that.
You don't save any numbers in your phone, but you know who you're talking to. Where when I was handling that prior to having our son. I saved everybody's numbers. I would check in with them. I knew like what I was doing. But I also just think separating like your relationship from work, even though you work together anyway, is very important as well. You don't want, even though you're working from home, you don't want to bring that into your whole entire relationship to where like that's all you're talking about is work.
I would say one benefit of our small business is that although we help contribute to the business together, we're not physically around each other all the time. So generally I'm in the field and Kendra is, responding to emails. You can kind of do what you do from wherever, as long as you have a laptop or your iPad that you like to use. So I think that's a big buffer. If you have a business with your wife, not that you can't get along with your wife all day, but I do think just some healthy distance in any relationship is good for one another. If we were in the same office in the same room all day, that might be different.
That might be a little bit more of a challenge. I mean, you've had some time off right now since it's cold out, and we're navigating that.
It's like I'm an old retired man, and you're at home being like, so what are you going to do today? Trying to get me out of the house?
I don't necessarily want you out of the house, but maybe that's a conversation for a different video.
Nice, I like that. So what would you say if you had like a few pros and cons of working in a business setting with your, husband and wife? What would you say some pros? Let's start with some pros.
I definitely think you need to make sure you're in a good, stable part of your relationship. I don't think you should go into business together if you're not in a stable relationship, or if things are rough. That doesn't seem like it's going to make anything better. I think it's helped us, or more so me. I mean, I knew what you did was physical labor and it was hard, but I definitely know a little bit more about it. So I respect you more in that sense. I know how hard you work. I know the hours that you work, and then just being more involved in it. It's nice to know what you actually are doing. Not that I need to know what you're doing all day, but it's nice to know what you do. I feel like some wives don't even know what their husbands do when they go to work.
Right.
I think it's helped us with our communication. I think it holds us accountable with things. Like I can ask you like, oh, did you follow up with this person?
Right. That's helpful for me.
And then you can kind of be like, oh, did you put a dig ticket in for X, Y, and Z? So I think it's helped with our communication and the respect we have for one another, like with the different things we do in the business.
Right.
And I get to talk to you more, which is also a pro.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is nice. We get to, catch up once in a while throughout the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't think it's something for every couple to be doing out there.
No, I agree. And I don't know that I feel like this, when you talk about construction specifically, it seems the buffer zone seems to be like the most helpful thing, where we do different things for the business, but we're contributing to the same thing.
Yeah. And I feel like most companies that are within your realm don't have a customer service aspect like we do. And I work with people at my other job as well. So I do a lot of customer service there. So it's important to me to also bring that into your business as well.
So I think it comes naturally to you as well. One, because you've been doing it for so long in another avenue, but two, because I feel like it's kind of just an expression of who you are.
Oh, thank you. What do you think some pros are?
I think the pros kind of come along with the cons. For example, you start your own business in hopes of having freedom over your schedule and having freedom over your time. And that's kind of, to me, one of the main pillars of wanting to be on your own and be independent. But you quickly realize how much even a small business can demand of you from the start, and you realize that the hours and the time and the commitments might be more overwhelming than, in some instances, having a regular type job. But it just depends what you really want to do and where you want to go with it and how you want to navigate your life. I guess it's kind of a way of life to be independent, because nobody is telling you what you need to do or where you need to be or who you need to call. Luckily, in a lot of ways, you kind of do that for me now, which is
I haven't in a while,
No.
but we're going to get back on track with that, I think. I think that's a goal for you, for me, for this year. But you haven't discussed it with me yet.
just to keep me on track.
No, for me to be doing more of the phone calls and stuff so I can keep you on track.
Well, yeah, that's fine. The last year has definitely been, we've had to navigate with having a young son, and a lot of Kendra's time has went to that, which I'm very grateful for, which I believe is also another big reason that we enjoy having our own business. It does give us at least that freedom at this point, as we've done this for I think about 8 years now. We are able at times to maybe take a long weekend or to navigate the schedule to work out so that we can do some things that we want to do. Like this weekend, we're going to go up north and hang out with some family friends that have a young daughter. And it's nice that we can leave Friday and stay till Monday and not really have to call anybody about that. But it does kind of mean more work when you get home sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
How has helping with a business and raising a child, merging that together, how has that been and felt for you?
Well, initially we had our son in February of 23, so it was right before Ben was getting ready to get back into work. Obviously having a newborn and it being your first is a learning experience. I think Ben thought I was going to be able to still help with the phones a lot more, and that was not the case. Our son would only nap if I was holding on to him, so I didn't really have much free time. I told Ben I could text people back, but he didn't really love that idea.
People like a call.
Well, obviously they like a call, but
They do.
I think with your type of business, they just want to hear back from somebody.
Whether it's a text or a call.
Right. Like, I think if somebody's just getting back to them in a timely manner, they're happy with it. But besides the point, that's not what you wanted, which was fine. So you definitely took on that workload for about a year. We had other things going on as well.
Let me get comfortable here.
Can you? There's not a lot of room.
I don't have much room with this big
So
dog.
then after our son turned 1, it was a little bit easier to like navigate things in the sense that like he had more of a schedule. I knew when he was going to nap, he was actually going to lay down on his own. So I got into doing like more of the emails and things like that. But I think now that he's going to be 2, even though he's a busybody, he can entertain himself pretty well, or I could put on Spider-Man for 20 minutes and get a few things done and hopefully help Ben in that aspect, since I haven't really been able to help in all the ways I wish I could in the last 2 years.
I think it's important to go into this with a set of goals, and shared goals and individual goals. But, you know, something for us, and this is just a personal choice, but when we found out that we were having a child, it really was our goal not to necessarily send our child to childcare.
Well, also childcare is very expensive.
It is. It actually is very expensive, and there's a lot of instances, I think, where one of the husband or the wife kind of works generally to almost just pay for the childcare itself.
Yeah, I mean, and I think even when you get to that point, you realize like, well, why am I working
Right.
when my whole paycheck is just going to daycare. But
I would say one of our main goals was to primarily raise our own child and to have him at home with us or with
Right.
you. So I'm very grateful that that's the way that has worked out for us. And, you know, that's not the only choice. There's lots of choices. That's what we were hoping to do. And that's been really worth any amount of sacrifice that we've had to put into the business, in my opinion, to be able to raise your own child. There's no one I would trust more than you.
well, I sure would hope so.
So,
Since I am his mom.
yes, you are. Right?
I am.
So I don't mean to go back on a conversation, but you brought up customer service and how that seems to be lacking in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to touch a little bit more on that? What you see, I wouldn't say from the competition, but just from in general from other businesses or even contractors that we've called to work on stuff at our house. Like what would you say is kind of the status quo almost, or the regular now? Because you've actually dealt with quite a few contractors when we originally bought our home, and we're kind of having different people do work.
I mean, I do think sometimes it depends on if it's like a bigger business or a small business. I feel like the smaller businesses will get back with you faster, but it's also just like on their watch most of the time. It's like, oh yeah, well, you know, maybe I'll stop by next week, but then next week comes and then they're not here. So I feel like they're not as upfront all the time.
A little wishy-washy?
Yes, like they will eventually show up.
You just don't know when.
You just don't know when. Where I feel like with bigger companies, they're not very direct. A lot of people just aren't very direct. And I don't know why that is, because I'd rather just somebody tell me like, hey, sorry, would really like to help you, but I'm not going to be there when you need me to be there. Okay, thank you. Now I can move on.
Right. You'd rather a no than an uncertain yes.
Oh yeah, that's my everyday life.
Right.
I don't like anything uncertain.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know. I feel like in like the construction industry, like there's kind of this like, it's more of a male dominated industry, I would say. So, I mean, no offense to guys out there, but they don't have that very like warm and fuzzy, like, oh, like, what are you looking for? It's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
When do you need us there? Nope, can't do it. Bye. And it's just like, I don't mind being direct. I don't mind being blunt and upfront, but that's a little too much for me. Like,
right. I
need to soften the edges a little bit.
It's been a huge blessing to have a lady's touch on the phone. And I mean that in the best way, where, you know, people are delighted to speak with Kendra when they call us to have a fence installed. And I am proud of that. Most customers that have dealt with Kendra when I'm there working on the job will compliment her communication and just her ease of handling business. So, but don't get me wrong, you don't want to mess with her. She will. She's still tough. She's still tough, right?
Yep, I am. Watch out.
That's right. She's also HR. So if any of the guys that work with me have an issue, I just say, yeah, just take it up with HR, and they're all kind of just a little bit scared of Kendra. So,
or maybe you share some things with me and I say, oh, would you like me to discuss that with them? And Ben will flat out tell me no.
You are direct and straight to the point.
You have to be.
I'd like to pick your brain a little bit while we're here about your thoughts on keeping a business small and simple, or trying to scale and create a bit bigger of a business. What maybe the pros and cons would be to that, and what kind of lifestyle factors that could affect?
I think having a small business, it's just easier to manage because you usually have less people. I think when you start bringing in more people, that's when you start to have, not all the time, but start to have like more issues or just have to deal with more things. I would say that you're very particular, so I think keeping your business small would benefit you more, because you barely like want the guys to go out by themselves and do something.
I'm
Like,
doing my best to let go of the reins. I really am.
but
I am picky.
and there's nothing wrong with being picky, but you also need them to realize like that you trust them going out and doing what they're doing.
Right. And they want, I believe they want to feel that trust.
Being a bigger company, I feel like you could probably in some ways have a little bit more freedom. But also I feel like with that freedom comes a lot of complications in the
Stress.
sense, yeah, like with my dad owning a business and having multiple people, there's always something going on. There's always some drama. Like,
Kendra's dad has been involved in quite a large business for the majority of his life at this point, and maybe we can get Kev on here and talk about the woes of
I don't think Kev's gonna come on here, but
of having X amount of employees, because it would be a difficult place to be.
yeah. So I mean, it's a trust thing. So it's like if you trust the people who are out there with doing work with your name on it, then that's fine. But you also have to realize they're human and they're going to make mistakes and it's not always going to be perfect.
Right.
But you just have to be okay with them learning from that and not making them feel bad about it.
Roll with the punches a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good word. Do you have anything else before we close that you'd like to throw out there to the guys? I mean, any advice to younger guys trying to get out there and get after it, get their boots on? Maybe they don't have a lot of vision in their life, but are really trying to go for something.
I think that as long as you are trying and you are doing the best that you can do and you're working, that's a good start.
Okay.
Because people want somebody with motivation. And if you're lacking motivation, you're lacking drive, it's not very cute.
Not attractive to a woman either, is it?
Yeah, or a man, whatever you're into.
Yeah.
But
I'm not going there.
regardless, I just think that you have to have drive and motivation. I think that about anybody in life, and I have siblings that are like 9-10 years younger than me, and I'm not ragging on their generation, but it seems that they lack a little bit of like motivation or taking initiative, and you just got to take the bull by the horns sometimes.
You just got to get after it.
You do.
I agree. Anything in closing, Kendra?
No, just happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
The dry sarcasm is overwhelming.
Some people get it, some people don't.
I agree. Well, look, this wasn't meant to be us telling you what to do or too serious or anything other than Kendra and I getting in here and talking about our experience starting a small construction business together. She was somewhat forced into it, but I think she's learned to enjoy it. And we hope it sheds a little bit of light on anybody trying to do the same. And yeah, we hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Oh,